Hi, and welcome to CMO Journeys, where we sit down with the marketing leaders shaping some of today's most innovative brands. I'm Christian Benak, and I explore the stories behind CMOs, how they lead, how they grow, and how they think about partnering with agencies. Pindrop is a digital communications security company helping enterprises detect deepfakes, prevent fraud, and restore trust across contact centers and virtual meetings. Joining us today is Adriana Gil Miner, Chief Marketing Officer at Pindrop, who brings 2 decades of experience building and scaling iconic B2B technology brands at companies like Tableau and Iterball. Adriana, welcome to CMO Journeys.
Hi, Christian. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I'd love to jump right into it. You've had a very interesting career. And as you think about your career in different chapters, rather than maybe titles, agency, financial services, Tableau, strategic leadership, what were the defining shifts that changed how you see marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I think about my career in 3 chapters, and each one of them has a major pivot. The first decade really was all about digital marketing, and it really started at Digitas, but it really came on the backs of where e-commerce was really maturing. I remember when I started, for example, working for at Digitas, working for American Express. My client at the time, I took over managing the affiliate program, which at that time, affiliate programs were like really early, and that became the number one acquisition channel for the enterprise. But of course, it was a lot of a lot of like manual work on trying to figure out like what it clicks in a banner meant, how they were tied to revenue and acquisition, the bounty structure, like all of those like early things. And that took me down to a route of, for example, product management also at American Express, of things like we move from email or from letter communications. Remember when you would get, like, as a consumer, you would get a letter that says you've been approved for higher, higher credit line. Well, all that at that point in my career was really needed to go digital. And again, a lot of reengineering, a lot of reconstructing of like old legacy systems. And all this came in the back of really what I would call the golden years of digital marketing and digital communications, because the internet was going from information or for brochureware to an actual economic channel for the entire world. So that marked my first 10 years of career. The second one, I would say, is the pivot into brand and storytelling. And that came because when I was in my last couple of years at Amex, the social media world started to emerge. I remember that we had a campaign that got hacked, and somebody was like, "Hey, Adri, we got hacked," and somebody posted the codes in a vlog. Like, we're like, "Oh my God, vlog, what is that?" So it wasn't even called social media at the time. It was called user generated content and things like that. And to me, when I started to see all that emerge with this idea that, wait, anybody can sort of like publish anything, the traditional curators and mediators were getting disrupted. To me, that both gave me an opportunity, but also was kind of like a setup sign, like, traditional marketing, you ain't going to be relevant anymore in traditional and digital marketing. So I had an opportunity to move to the West Coast from New York, and I landed at Weber Shandwick, PR agency, one of the global ones, and I learned in there the incredible power of storytelling, because we were entering the world of social media. Storytelling became the king. And that led into Tableau. Was one of my early clients. They were really small, and then I went to Tableau. And so, and Tableau had just an incredible mission, which, by the way, one of the areas that started was with data journalism. So that marked, I would say, the second decade of my career, where I saw, where I really focused on that brand building, community building, storytelling. So all of like what I would call the softer part of marketing. And then started the third chapter, which I would call it post-COVID, five years ago. And this third chapter, as a CMO of really high growth companies, which is really where I focus on, to me is the merging of these two things. And the most important change is, of course, AI, what it does to our jobs, but also what it does. Again, we're facing a whole change of how people consume and interact with brands. So that whole change has really marked this time in me as a CMO, where to me it's all about bringing together the data side of the world, and when I say data, I mean the technology and still the storytelling. So that human and sort of science part of bringing together for high growth, which is very different than optimizing an established brand. That's my focus now.
That's great. What a great way you divided it up into the different chapters. I'm curious as I hear that, every moment in every career, I should say, there's a moment in every career where the risk outweighs certainty. And I'm hearing these different chapters that you've had. And was there a leap that you took that really made you feel uncomfortable at the time?
Oh, I feel like every leap I've taken makes me uncomfortable. And if I'm not uncomfortable, it means I'm not growing. But you know, I will say that maybe the most recent one, it is in this like high growth companies, not just Pindrop but Iterable. um it, Even when I joined Tableau, like Tableau was a client of mine, but I ended up joining them after they had gone to IPO. So you could say like it was a fairly safe bet. Although I will tell you, being a public company is not easy. People think it's like, oh, once you make it public, you're done. No, you have a lot of scrutiny. We went through ups and downs of stock. You At the time, and Tableau was still a fairly small company when I joined, and things like we didn't have a formal like investor relations head, and so I started to I jumped into writing the earnings scripts for my CEO, and I knew nothing about. I remember my CFO at the time was like, "Do you know anything about investor relations?" I'm like, "Absolutely nothing." He's like, "Okay, take note. There's the buy side and there's the sell side." And I mean, fortunately, I think in that time, and it continues to be, I had great mentors. Even inside like at Tableau, like every C person, my CMO, my CFO, my chief legal officer, who was amazing. They're all of them really took the time to teach, and of course, I went in. With a lot of like fast learning. But now, like if you think about the post-COVID era and just think about what marketing has gone through, like it's like, oh, everything digital, now everything in person, hire everybody, don't hire anybody. It's like, I mean, the amount of change and unpredictability is so high. So I will say like taking a bet on any company like the CMO job is a not for the faint of heart. Makes you very uncomfortable because also there's so many new things. The market changes, the tool changes, so there's no formula. And I would say I'm uncomfortable every day, but what gives me comfort or fuel to me is to keep that learning mentality. So I'm like the type of person that I'll spend the weekend, which I do, like, hey, vibe coding, learning Claude, learning this thing, like doing it myself, because if I'm not transmitting that, we can be afraid or we can be excited to like there's something new. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe you do, but I don't.
I
Uh,
wish.
so yeah, that's how I have it. But that's sorry, this is a long answer, but I would say in every opportunity I've taken, there's a level of comfort that I have, which is feeling it, which is my history is I come from a my history is that I rely on my ability to learn and to be agile and to adapt. That's what gives me comfort. But what gives me uncomfortability is like, I just know that things are changing and they're changing so fast that it is hard to predict. It is hard to plan. It is hard to, stand up and, of course, my CEO wants to have, and my CFO, they all want me to give them a predictable model. How much pipeline, if they give me $1 more, how much can I produce? Yeah, that's tough to do, with a straight face.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you mentioned, mentors that you had along the way. And I'm curious if there was maybe one specific piece of advice that they gave you, or maybe if it wasn't from a mentor, maybe it was a book or a colleague that really still influences how you're making decisions today.
Yes, one is from the former CMO of Tableau, Elisa Fink. Her advice is the people is the plan. And I live and die by that advice. And it is very much how I shape things and how I build teams today.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think that's sometimes overlooked. We think of marketing, you figure marketing, but it's the people. Without the people, there is not going to be the marketing.
Yes, even
So
with all the
I like, yeah, yeah. So I'd like to shift gears a bit and talk a little bit now about where you're at today. So for somebody that maybe hears the word deep fakes and thinks it's some sort of like sci-fi, problem, what's the real world version of this threat really today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And by the way, I am a sci-fi nerd, and so
Okay.
maybe that was part of my attraction as well. But look, what's happening is it is a new problem, and I don't think people are quite yet understanding of the sort of real threat and problem that we're facing. What we see in the news is that you hear people like, President Biden getting spoof called, and there were those voice, the impersonations, or Elon Musk, or we have celebrities like Taylor Swift, getting like deep fake and all that stuff. Yes, all of that is happening. But what's more close to home in reality is that you and I, it is so easy for fraudsters, like say in North Korea or in Russia or any of these like nation states that have cyber criminals, to impersonate you, both your voice. It only takes 6 seconds of your voice to generate a whole, and it looks exactly. And by the way, you can't really tell, or your video, which more and more. Before it was like you could just say, hey, just do your hand to make sure that you're real. Well, all that, it's getting better and better, so harder to tell. So what's happening, and we're seeing it in Pindrop data, what's happening is that you have cases like, for example, if you're a retailer, people are impersonating you, and they will call and try to refund money, exchanges and stuff. And they steal, $20, $30 at a time. But the cyber criminal I mean, they have now, you can do like bots, at scale. So they do that like thousands of times a day. So that $20 adds up to that company, and it starts to do. But other cases are like, hey, they're impersonating your grandma, and her life savings are gone in a bank. And so because those are their new security, they pass the security checks, they pass all the security questions, all those typical identity verification are no longer sufficient in the way that you can impersonate voice, you can impersonate video, and then you have all of the social engineering data, like your social security and all that stuff. It's very, and we're seeing attacks. So for example, in our latest research that we publish, AI attacks, so bots, increased over 1,200% from last year. We have customers where 66% of their call volume is AI bots, not humans. So this idea that like deep fakes is this thing that's happening out there to celebrities and stuff, it's not. It's happening right now. It's like your bank, your insurer, your retailer, like all of those places that you interact as a consumer, are getting attacked by cyber criminals with AI bots they're using, and it's so easy to do. So that's what we're trying to, quickly, and that's why the reason of like, I came here to Pindrop, because I was attracted to this like, like we need a new sort of system of defense in the world of Gen AI, because that's world. And so I was attracted to that. But even broader than that, if you think about AI is really great. I love AI. I love generating all kinds of things, videos and stuff. I mean, my writing, all of my creative outlets is a really great. Plus, I really like it for, work. I'm a pro AI world, but like anything, every tool has a dark side. And the dark side that at the society level is hitting us is that you cannot believe anything. We're approaching the world where until it's proving that it's real, you have to assume it's AI generated. Now, not every AI generated thing is negative. So then the question is this a good thing? Is this a good AI or a bad AI? So to really navigate and restore trust in that world, you really have to have, again, a whole new a new generation of companies that are really dedicated to what I would call answering the three core questions of identity in the Gen AI world. Is this a machine or is this a human? Is this a good or bad intent? And is this the bot or the person that they say they are? Those are three things.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I can't say that I was that until preparing for this, interview. Really, that I had put a whole lot of thought into some of the different use cases. Because yeah, I was probably like what you're describing, thinking of the celebrities, but had no idea the scale of how it's being used in other areas. So with that being said, you're stepping into this role. What do you feel had to be true in your first 90 days in order for you to feel like you're on the right track?
The I'd say the number one thing was to get a get the message out about the problem, because this is a white space. It's not like people have deepfake budgets. I in every B2B work that I've had, I've always had the opportunity to say the solution that I'm representing is better than whatever you had. So like old BI, hey, modern BI, better BI with Tableau, old, sort of like old Martech and better, more efficient, faster with Iterable. In this case, it's a brand new category. There's no budgets, and it's all white space. So the most important thing that I had to activate was, hey, let's get the message or the problem. Like, let's sell the problem. People are not aware, exactly like you're saying. Most people, and not just CISOs and security, but in general, the public needs to understand that you and I are at risk in this Gen AI world. And so that was my number one thing, which, of course, I started, and there's a lot of effort, continued effort around this, because I think it's a public service type of motion that I'm leading and working with the whole company there.
Yeah. So as you described, there's a lot of awareness building happening, but I'm sure you mentioned them earlier. Your CEO, your CFO are also interested in pipeline.
Oh
How do
yeah,
you navigate that trade off?
yeah. So what's been really fortunate, and it's again funny, I haven't had this in 5 years, is that in the first 3 months that I was there, they gave me a pipeline goal, and we totally crushed it. We actually had so many opportunities that we had to accelerate our hiring on the sales side, because we just literally didn't have enough capacity to handle what was coming in. So that was really great, because we quickly proved that there is demand for this problem, and not just like interest, but actually like opportunities and sales opportunities and all that stuff. And so I'm in a very fortunate place where I actually have already surpassed all the pipeline goals, and that's translating into bookings in a good way. The challenge I have is that, of course, it's like as soon as you have success, board, my CEO, my CFO, everybody's like, okay, how can you triple this? And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me see what else we can do. Which we're in a fortunate time where we're meeting sort of like the market moment, and that not I know not every company is like that, but when you have a wave to ride like we do, like it's a problem that it's growing on its own, then if you do the right things, it's a matter of like how well can you capture that opportunity. So that's really where I'm at, is like really trying to figure out how fast can I scale this, and what is the ceiling of the market, because right now I don't have any signal that says there's not there's not enough demand. In fact, there's more demand that we can handle. So then I have to like fix, like, how do we handle more, how do we capture more of that demand?
Sure, sure. So how do you think about that? What are those capabilities then that you're increasingly spending on?
Yeah. Well, number one, there's three legs of what we're doing. So one is awareness, and that will continue to raise. And I would say in a noisier world, that is becoming harder and harder. The way that I have found is you really have to kind of like infiltrate communities. So like things like Reddit and social media and like influencer, that's something that also in B2B is not traditionally done, but we're leaning more and more in that type of thing. So it's kind of like the quiet kind of like guerrilla that is coming in. But I'm also investing more in, traditional like out of home ads and podcasts and things like that that really help just a general growth, right? Like awareness. The second leg of the stool is we have a pretty strong ABM program. So, we have that is a combination of outbound SDRs as well as like LinkedIn and like digital performance. So that's like what I would call like the direct pipe building. And honestly, like in this world of digital, the best thing that I see converting are events. And events are not scalable, they're hard to do, but again, in the world of like the digital noise has gone so big that I see digital as more like a cat. It's like when someone is interested, then you can catch it. But to go outbound and stuff, you just have to go to a lot of events. So that's where you put people in front of people conversations, and a lot happens with that. And then the third leg of stool is through our partners. We're embedded in Zoom and WebEx as well as in Microsoft Teams. And so through our partners, plus we have other great partnerships like Nice and some big ones. Like the partners are key to expand, both their network, go to market with them, as well as having. So we're very partner heavy company, and so you got to, we're like probably like tripling our investment in marketing and selling with partners.
Wow. So it sounds like you got a lot on your plate there. Tell us about the team. What does your internal team look like? Are you working with any partners to help with this? Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so team is it's a funny thing because we're very lean, and I think that's the new formula, right? Like with AI, you can do a lot more, and that's a conversation that every CMO group that I'm in we have is like, how do you restructure your team for the AI world? I have we're 20 people, and we're in the traditional. We essentially have like three big functions, which are brand and community or customer marketing. We have product marketing, and then the third leg of the stool is all the demand gen side, which is both integrated campaigns, martech, as well as events are in there. So those are the three big ones. And, the way I'm structuring things now is that I am going more senior for most of because the way that I'm finding out is that, again, with AI, like a lot of the production and a lot of the easy stuff is can be done by AI. Like we have a big initiative of like democratizing creative. Like everybody in marketing needs to be their own writer and their own designer. So we have our design lead who's really in charge of being more of an editor of creative and setting up, our Canva, our Figma, and all of the ChatGPT, all of the systems and tools and training so that everybody can do their own design. And she's more like a editor than like an actual designer. So that change of role is going through all the different organizations. And to answer your question, yes, we do have a number of partners. Everything from PR agencies, we have a outcast to social media to design uh, design agencies, as well as a number of consultants that we have freelance. There's a lot of fractional people out there that are really, really great. And I definitely have like, I think half of my team are consultants, and some of them are getting converted into, they fall in love with Pindrop and so they join us full time. But I heavily rely on partners. I think the external view is so important for organizations that are growing and trying to like change things, quickly.
Sure, sure. You mentioned AI, and a lot of agencies are feeling nervous because where is their role in AI? And I'm curious your perspective on where you think maybe AI might replace agencies moving forward, and maybe where it won't.
Yeah, that's the challenge, and I would say, I mean, it's the same for employees and full time. And I've had the opportunity to be both on the agency side and on the client side. I think that I think that I think where it won't replace is that you still bring the broad perspective in, and you can help the company really transform. So, for example, one of my agencies, Myra Mix, who's our digital agency, does all of our paid program. They use AI for production, very, they just like do the ads and all that stuff. It's like, for example, before you used to do like a concept of an ad and then you put like maybe like 3 or 4 versions, A/B tests and stuff. That stuff is gone. Like you have to put 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 ads. Like, I'm to the point where, at Iterable, we say like the death of the campaign, like, why do you even have to have you can have a general concept, but we're almost to the point where I can just do a one-to-one, one ad for Christian and one ad for Peter and one ad, like, and it changes all the time. Like we're almost there. It's going to happen in the next year or so. Having said that, you still need to drive the strategy and the goals, and then like help the company transform, because it's not easy when you tell a creative team like, oh no, forget about it, you're not going to have campaigns anymore, you're going to have just this ongoing optimization and the machines are going to like optimize all that stuff. So we're particularly in a time that there's so much organizational transformation that every agency brings. When they bring best practices, when they bring like, look what these other clients are doing, look at these examples, let me help you structure the transformation phases, because somebody can absorb it day one, like I see just such good service, like again from like Myra makes, like they did an assessment with us and they like brought. So again, to me, the trafficking to, to Google and all that stuff, that's not where the value is anymore. It's not in the execution. It is all on the strategy and the ability to take us with them in a journey. Um, so that's where I'd see it now. And I understand that, of course, it's easy to make a plan. Sure, I can be like, give me a media plan, chat GPT, but again, the reality of like the transformation to actually implement that is not, it's not there yet. And I don't think we're in a world where AI is, the simple solution. It's very unequitable across organizations, across teams, across people. You have legacy processes. Like, yeah, it's all great, but man, when I'm dealing with like, Salesforce crappy data from like 13 years ago, that doesn't work for AI. And so that those are the things that I think that agencies can really take advantage of.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great perspective. You've obviously been agency side. I'm curious your take on, what's maybe one thing that agencies should lead with when they're pitching, say, a security or AI type categories, and what's maybe something they should never lead with?
I think the first thing is to like deeply understand you. And even when I was an agency, that was the thing that won every pitch. I mean, you got to remember, like, as CMO, when you're stuff like you hear so many things. Sometimes I show the SDR my inbox, and I'm like, I get probably like 20 to 30, reaches a day, and there's like 20,000, applications in MarTech. So you got to be like, between that and agency services, our our inboxes are totally full. And then when I hear, when I do an RFP and I'm like, okay, let's hear and all this stuff, it's all the same thing. So what stands out is like, I always be like, who gets us the most? So if they've done their research, they really understand the company, they come with intelligence and they teach me something. Those are the things that I would lead for. I would avoid trying to be like, we're the best, because also that's the other thing. I think like CMOs are smart. And so it's not always about being the biggest or most recognized agency. It's about do you get us, and will you have like the team, that a team that will come and get us. And so because what we want is attention, right? So when you hear and you come with like, oh, we're like the number one agency in the world and we have all this stuff, like I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, 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 that's cool, but I'm gonna get the B team, you know. And so that's what I've learned, both I'm being on both sides.
Sure, sure. Oh, that never happens. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, yes, I've seen it. And it's like, I always tell people, I'm like, when I was in the agency, all my clients were idiots. And then when I was in the house, all my agencies are idiots. So we're just all idiots together.
There you go. There you go. I love that. Um, so we talked a lot about work. I'd love to just, as we kind of wind things down here, I'd love to know a little bit outside of work. What's something that, consistently resets or grounds you when, things get intense?
Well, I would say number one thing is that I love to dance. I had a bringing in dancing, but I'm also Latina, and so it's a thing that I do to, I try to do it in the morning, sometimes in the evening. I have a playlist that's called Stress Dance with a lot of good salsa and merengue, and so like I think when I move my body, it just helps me sort of reground. I'm Venezuelan, and so my view in the world is to always try to, even in the face of difficult situations, I always try to have joy. So I also love comedy. And so anything that's stand up comedy or movies or funny videos, I'm all in. Like I try to laugh every day, like even in really crappy days. And so it's a big thing that comes to me. And of course, with that comes, family and friends. Like human connection to me is what fuels me. So I'm fortunate to have a great group of friends, a great family. Some of it it's like spread apart. Those are the things that ground me. And I will tell you one thing that's special this year, if I get a bonus in there. So I know this is awkward to say out loud, but I'm turning 50 this year. And I say with pride because that's a difficult thing to say as a woman. I'm like, I'm going to say my age. I'm turning 50. And so for this year, I have a goal of learning 50 new things to celebrate my 50th birthday. And I've already learned 8 new things. And so it's really fun. And because people also give me great ideas. My general thing is like, I have to be able to learn it in a weekend because I don't have that much time. But, I had things like, I have a friend of mine who I went to visit her house, and I had told her, I'm like, hey, I need to learn something new this weekend. So can we do something? And she enlisted her 7-year-old son, and he taught me a song in piano. I don't know how to play the piano. So we learned together, and that was great. And so I just like it, this project of learning 50 new things have been such a joy and so grounding for me to help, to like, hey, just remember, like, it is so great to be alive, honestly. So I'm very grateful to turn 50. I'm looking forward to my birthday and to, by the end of the year, be able to wrap up 50 things, 50 new things.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and happy early birthday. That is such a great goal. I'm a couple years behind that, but I'm going to remember that. I really love that. So, thank you so much for sharing that and sharing your story and the great work you're doing at Pindrop. Adriana, this has been wonderful, and I want to close things out here. And everybody watching, don't forget to follow CMO Journeys for more conversations with the marketing leaders that are shaping what's next. I'm Christian Banak. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.